Hello, everybody. It's Michael Hollands once again for Sound of the Movies. Today I have the pleasure to be joined by one of today's greatest cinematographers, Shane Hurlbut. Over the course of his career, Shane has worked on multiple music videos, commercials, and feature films. Some of his credits include The Greatest Game Ever Played, Swing Vote, Act of Valor, Terminator Salvation, Need for Speed, Fathers and Daughters, We Are Marshall, Into the Badlands, There is No Place Like Home, Holidate, Rim of the World, Safety, and many more. It is my great pleasure to welcome Shane Hurlbut.
Thank you so much, Michael. How you doing today?
I'm just fine. How about you?
I am fantastic and ready to get started.
Great, Shane. Thank you very much for taking the time out of your busy schedule. I really appreciate that. It's such a great honor to be talking to you. And Shane, at first, I would like to know about your inspiration to get started in this business. Which director and or cinematographer comes to mind which you would credit as inspiration or reason to get into this business?
Let's see. So my inspiration was probably my dad. Originally, he had an old Super 8 camera that he had in the closet, a little movie projector and a screen, and we would all sit around with when our cousins would get together and we'd share all the different movies that they had shot of when I was a little kid and a baby and all this. And I could see my mom with her hat and my dad out in the field on the combine and me eating in the field. All these amazing kind of movies that my mom and my dad made while I was growing up. And I finally, around 13 or 14 years old, got a hold of this thing, and we did this big trip out to the on Amtrak. So one year we went through all of Canada through Canadian National CN, and then we went through the upper half of the United States. And then 2 years later, we went through the middle of the United States and went through the bottom. So I saw every state, including Alaska, except Hawaii, basically on the train. And it was an incredible experience. I think it was a month and a half long that this journey for both of them. And so when I was trying to figure this whole thing out, I was like, Dad, so, how does this thing work? And he's like giving me the pointers. The one pointer he left out is I said, Dad, so when I get done with the roll, do I flip it over and I can record on the other side? And he goes, yeah, I think so. So all of a sudden, I'm so excited. I've shot all these beautiful images of the Colorado Rockies and elk and moose and all these incredible travels. And, I get everyone in the neighborhood and we put up the screen and I fire the thing up and everything is double exposed. It looks like a psychedelic drug overdose. So it was like, you could see, all of a sudden my mom was smiling and then a moose would shoot in behind her and, and then a wide shot of the Rockies and my dad is there, he was holding a sledgehammer for where they drove the Golden Spike in Ogden, Utah. It was such a surreal experience. And that was kind of sparked my interest in making movies. And then I would have to say, cinematographer wise, I was fascinated with Orson Welles and I was fascinated with Greg Tolan. I thought his work and how he used light and shadow, that's something that I've always used, as an inspiration. I love his work, and he was a very successful hard lighter. So he could position the hard light in ways that just looked like soft light because of the way it fell on the face. And I think that another cinematographer that was big into hard light, and I had had the privilege to work on a couple projects with him was Conrad Hall.
Yes.
Everything he lit was hard light, full spot. And then he would scrim it down to the exact ratios that he loved. Roger Deakins was a huge inspiration for me, as well as Bob Richardson. When I saw Snow Falling on Cedars, it was just the absolute, I thought that was a tour de force from beginning to end.
Yes, Snow Falling on Cedars is a very good example, actually, a very good movie, and I need to rewatch this one, actually. I love it. The cinematography is great, directing was beautiful, the music score by James Newton Howard was absolutely fantastic.
It took a topic that we know not much about in the United States and really shined a spotlight on it, and that's what I loved about it also.
Right. And Shane, I mean, you are such a let's say experienced filmmaker and cinematographer, and I know you also run the Hurlbut Academy, and you run many courses, and you provide tips and insights for many young and aspiring filmmakers. Which are to you the do's and the don'ts of a cinematographer and filmmaker? What is essential in accomplishing your storytelling goals, and what is to be avoided at all costs?
Well, first off, there's many ways to become a cinematographer. I chose the path of starting at the bottom. And I see it, I had this wonderful conversation with my daughter last night, who has just been elevated to maitre d' at Nobu in West Hollywood. And she controls all the flow of the restaurant. And when I was talking with her, she's like, well, Danny, who is usually the maitre d' that's training me, when things are, and this has been all brought about by COVID, because, they just can't find the staff anymore for restaurants. So Danny, because the way Nobu works is, even if you're going to be a maitre d' or a manager or that status, you have to start washing dishes. That's how it starts.
Yes.
And you work from washing dishes to then, moving up the ladder slowly within the Nobu chain of command. And Kira says it's unbelievable because Danny, he's been a bartender. So he hops behind the bar when they need help, and he becomes a hostess, and he sits people, and then he's hopped back in there and washed dishes. He's done it all. So that's how I learned to be a cinematographer. I wanted to start right at the bottom. So I started packing grip and electric trucks and camera trucks and camera prep early on in my career. That was how I started, at a rental house. I started with grip and electric and camera in Boston at this rental house that doesn't exist anymore. It was called Film Arts. And it had camera, grip, and electric, and these big 5-ton Mercedes-Benz trucks that, growing up on a farm, I could drive a 10-ton, a 40-footer, a pickup truck, you name it, I could drive the thing. So I immediately, got in at this rental house, started to learn how to repair HMIs, how to repair tungsten, how to globe xenons, which is an incredibly dangerous job. All these different things that shaped me on the technical side. And then from my film school background at Emerson College, and just constantly trying to educate myself on, film theory and learning the why you do stuff, not just the how. And that really kind of shaped me as a cinematographer. So I went up the ladder as grip truck, first as a rental house guy, and then as a grip truck driver, then as a dolly grip. With the dolly grip, I started to understand motion and how to move it and the elegance of it, and making it seamless so the actors and the camera feel like one beast. Then I moved on to being a key grip. So I really understood how to create light and shadow, we're shadow makers and controlling and softening light and all that type, and rigging, understand all the rigging. And then I became a best boy electric. So I knew how to run power and distribute it. And then I became a gaffer and eventually a cinematographer. So I would say the do's are start at the bottom. The don'ts are thinking that you're going to kind of come out of film school and you're going to be a director or a cinematographer. I don't care if it's AFI, USC, whatever it is. You cannot possibly learn everything that you need to know to become a cinematographer. You need to really get in there and understand the tech as much as understanding the artistry. And I think that for everyone that says, oh, yes, well, I'll just put a little of this there and a little of that there. And, no, I'm not that way. I am put an 18K there, spin it around, put it into ultra bounce, and I want a 12 by 12 half soft frost. Give me a bottomer, 2 siders, divide that. It is exacting. And that's how you're able to, one, stay on schedule, stay on budget, put more on the screen because you're very granular. And that's kind of been my secret sauce.
Right. And of course, you have to work your way up, as you just put it, Shane. And to me, filmmaking is art. It's an art form, a very complex art form. And I just love movies. I've been a movie buff all my life. And what he just described makes perfect sense. Of course, you have to understand the language of cinema, camera movement, following the actors, creating a cinematic language, breaking down the scripts, working with a director. So that's a huge task, and you have to wear many different hats, I suppose.
No, absolutely. And what I try to do is get as specific as possible with working with the director and the production design and hair, makeup, wardrobe, set deck, very specific. So, and that starts with the game plan of the director's pitch deck. So we see the tone and mood of the project, whether it be a commercial, music video, or a narrative piece. You start to see the vision. And then from that, it sparks ideas and collaboration. And then you got to boil that down into a shot list. And once that shot list starts to morph, then it becomes, and as you start to see locations, you start to create your blocking schematics. So you can block to the light and you can move the actors around. So it's not just me showing up on the day with a lot of lights and then watching the actors block a scene. We've already got it planned out. You have to in this day and age with the restrictions of being 10-hour days that are very essential during this COVID and essential just across the board. I mean, we've been working ourselves to death in the film industry, and the last 3 movies that I did during COVID, having those 10-hour days and be able to come home, recharge, enjoy a nice dinner that I cook for myself, and then being able to watch a movie and decompress, and then be able to look at what is up for the next day has been a complete game changer. Yes. And it really has fueled my creative soul that you usually don't get when you're working 14 and 15-hour days, which has been the norm. So that's been a breath of fresh air. But yes, with these blocking schematics, then, it's like I did this test. I did a movie where I did about 20 lighting schematics. Uh-huh. And then I did a movie where I did every lighting schematic for every scene in the movie. And the one that I did 20 lighting schematics, production had problems with man days. Production had problems with pre-lights. Production had problems with the gear and this, that, and the other thing, and all the stuff that was kind of blown out of proportion because my pre-rigging and also my technical team did not have a roadmap. Huh. Once I did a schematic for every single scene, I never heard about budget. I never heard about man day totals. I never heard about any problems with the gear. I'd have to trim here and there a little bit here, but it was vaporized because the roadmap was there. They didn't think they were just going to unload the whole truck. They knew how specific I was. I made it very clear on what I was going to use. And oh my God, it was just an absolute aha moment for me.
We previously talked about working your way up, and I know that many directors and also cinematographers used to shoot many music videos and also commercials, which I think is also let's say a very good way of sinking your teeth in and trying to let's say work your way up and try to find a formula as to how to approach a project. And you also shot quite a few music videos, and when you worked on Nirvana, Come As You Are, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, Come As You Are, Lithium. Yeah, I did Cypress Hill with Mick G.
Yes.
I did Sugar Ray.
Yes.
I did Smashing Pumpkins.
Tori Amos.
Stone Temple Pilots.
Yes, so there's...
Yeah, Tori Amos.
Yes, quite a lot, quite the versatility. And also you shot commercials and Dunkin' Donuts and the Superman commercial, which was directed, I think, by Barry Levinson.
Barry Levinson and I, yeah, we did the Superman with Seinfeld
yes,
Amex spots. Those things are hilarious. I had so much fun working with Barry. He was like, he really didn't understand this whole DV thing, and we really took it. I shot that whole thing on that Canon mini DV camera, and I got a PL mount adapter and put all this incredible glass in the front of it, and really kind of elevated that whole campaign with that, because we were able to shoot with multiple cameras and all different lenses, and that was great.
Right. And Shane, in my introduction, I mentioned quite a few movies that you shot. Which film would you say changed the course of your career forever?
Okay. I would say Crazy Beautiful. That was a movie done with John Stockwell. And one thing, the biggest takeaway from that for me was he wanted a very real look at Los Angeles. He wanted the teenagers, he wanted the environments to be real. He wanted to be able to shoot with actors that weren't actors, that were, he ripped them straight out of East LA's drama program and just all of a sudden gave them a role. And I just saw how this approach just got such a fresh kind of feel. And then when we went and did Into the Blue, the other thing he taught me was just kiss. Keep it simple, stupid. It was all about being on the water. And he goes, we have to do this on one boat, not a flotilla. We cannot have 20 or 30 boats. We can't have a big equipment boat. Everything needs to be done from one platform. And that movie was done on budget, on schedule, and there's never been an on the water. We did 99 days underwater and 60 topside.
Wow.
And, we stayed on schedule and on budget, and there had never really been a movie that had ever done that on the water, because you're always delayed by the weather and by storms and all this stuff. But because we kept it very small, if a storm was coming, we'd sneak into a bay and we could still shoot. And if it was too rough, we'd do the same. We'd go into another area, or we'd pivot to the land. And then it was just such a great process, because it was not this massive army of boats. It was one. And I built it with this Rico Browning. It was a 14 by 45 foot catamaran, and it was called the Corinthian. And it had like 2 Honda 350s on this thing. It could go 30 knots with a 30-foot Tecto crane, a 20-foot Foxy that could have an airy, Hydroflex, so I could go from above water to underwater. It had 4 underwater bodies on it. We had 14 cameras, complete packages on that one flotilla. So that was a big thing that I learned on that. The other, let's see, what other kind of changed the course of how I shoot. I would say also the Rat Pack, which was my first film that I had ever shot. Rob Cohen, the director, kind of, I never shot a narrative piece. I came right from music videos and commercials, and he really took me under his wing and, showed me how to shoot narrative. And he did it in such a wonderful way as a mentor, as well as I was educating him on the newest in lens technology, and really went extreme with the lighting in that movie. I lit it like George Harrell with the high key nature. So he was fueling off of all my new techniques and learning from the old masters, and then also helping me with understanding, eye lines and over the shoulders and when you want to move the camera and all that kind of stuff.
Right. Wasn't the Rat Pack also one of the reasons why you were invited to join the ASC?
Yeah, I mean, We Are Marshall is one that tipped it over the edge, but yeah, the Rat Pack was something I was the youngest cinematographer to be ever nominated for their first debut film. Wow. So yeah, and that kind of put me on their radar, and then I did like 5 or 6 more movies, and then We Are Marshall.
Great. The Rat Pack was shot in '98, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
Great. And Shane, when you are working on a picture which is, let's say, more action oriented, I mean, Act of Valor, Need for Speed, or even a Terminator Salvation, when you, let's say, prepare the day's work and you have to worry about, let's say, tracking shots and also huge set pieces, do you also like to improvise? Do you have to change do you have to change things on the fly, or do you usually like to run a tight operation, or does it depend on the picture?
It really depends on the moment. I try to I try to have the best laid plans. So if the weather kicks us in the ass, or the actors are thinking about different blocking, or we have a crane breakdown, or lights that don't work, whatever the case may be, I have a great plan in place. So the punt, our plan B, has to be just as good or better than what we did for 3 months in prep. So I'm constantly always thinking on my feet, and I think that really came from my upbringing of being on the farm, helping my dad raise, harvest all our crops and plant them all and water and fertilize and, everything that we did to run a successful, crop farm. I learned that, things break down and weather kicks you in the ass, and you just have to be able to pivot. And that pivot has to be very productive. So I kind of have that best laid plan. And then I also look for serendipity moments. Like on Terminator Salvation, you plan everything out, but there's just those moments where it just all comes together. And we were doing this shot. It was on a 50-foot techno crane. And it was when the Jeep drives up to this completely dilapidated 7-Eleven. And it pulls up over the overhang that's literally crushed down. And then they get out and they scan the horizon and looking. And there's a resistance symbol that is painted on the 7-Eleven sign. So we get the crane up there, and the composition is awesome. And it's just a shit cloudy day. And we're all sitting there and we're just bumming out and everything. And I'm like, all right, well, let's go around while this is happening. Let's go around to the back, and we'll do all the stuff with Marcus looking at, hitting the gas and about ready to ram the gas tank into the one Terminator, and do all that insert stuff while we're seeing if it's going to clear up. And, all of a sudden we get in there and we're started working. And then I get a call from my gaffer, and he's like, Shane, we got to get out here and do this shot. Oh my God, look at the sky. And I run out, and the clouds had kind of just set on the horizon, and the sun just was piercing through this small little sliver that just absolutely looks stunning. And I'm like, all right, get that Jeep deep. So Marcus and, the cast load up in it, and we got the 50-foot techno crane, and we're up high, and the sun is flaring us out, and you see the Jeep on the hook of the road, and it comes in, and we come back down, and we go through the resistant 7-Eleven and all the dilapidation and destruction, and we land, and the Jeep pulls in, and then Marcus comes out, and he walks right up to camera. And just at that moment, the sun, when the techno crane comes down, the sun flares through all the destruction, and it does like these 7 to 10 shafts that shoot through there. And it was just absolute serendipity. And it was like, these are the moments that you just got to be ready to harness. And so, I love to shoot the plan of attack, but I'm always open to say, okay, what is, going to happen curveball wise, and how can I turn that into lightning in a bottle that would have never been there?
Great. And I think, Shane, in order to become a successful filmmaker and cinematographer, you also have to become a leader. And you, of course, are the department head as the DP, director of photography. And I think resilience is also a major factor when you want to work in this field. Do you think you can actually learn how to be resilient, or is it something you just have to have right off the bat, also when you're working in a tough climate?
Well, I think that the industry has softened a little bit, but it is still a very, very difficult industry to succeed in. And it takes what I call alligator skin. And there's a lot of HR departments that are never going to want to hear this, but it's the unfortunate fact. We are creatives. We're in an environment that things go wrong and tempers flare, and you have to be able to be like, let it water off a duck's back. I mean, I've had many cinematographers that I worked under that were just absolute screamers. And I've worked with directors that have been absolute screamers. And I just, let it hit me. And I try to diffuse that bomb and not take it out on my crew. I try to stop. I'm trying to be the dam. And some days it works. And some days, unfortunately, I'm so overloaded that I let the dam just flow. And, a lot of people get taken out with the water, but it's a constant thing of trying to be a better leader. I'm always trying to be better at what I do. I'm trying to continue to inspire and motivate teams to go and take the hill when they're on their, 11th hour and, there's not much gas in the fuel tank. And, I've really tried a lot of leadership skills that I have on the last 6 movies that I've been using that really are working. And that's when it's exciting, when you can start to see these wonderful like leadership golden nuggets that you're dialing in. Like, first one is how you respond every day. So when you come into work, everyone always asks you, hey, Shane, how you doing? Hey, Michael, how you doing? I only have 2 words, frickin' fantastic. That's all I utter every single day. And it sets a tone because I've been on sets with the grumpy DP. I've been that grumpy DP. Okay. I've been that person. I'm come in, I don't have enough time. I'm not going to be able to do it. The budget's against me, production's against me, my crew's against me. We just can't you're all against me. It's like that anger thing that happens when you're just like a grumpy old artist. And I was like, you know what? I'm not going to do that anymore. It's not any fun to be grumpy. It's not any fun to, push people down. So by starting with the freaking fantastic, you set the tone. The second thing is I tell everyone, be a goldfish. Okay. It's like goldfish do not have like a 10-second memory. So if something screws up and the camera does something, or he didn't get that right focus, or a light went off in the middle of the shot and it was the best shot, and there was a technical glitch or something happened, I forget about that in 10 seconds. And I only ask that we just try to do our very best the next time.
Okay.
And the other thing is, I try to really inspire my team by this team building process where I tell them, back in the day, which, my kids went through it. I call it the millennial movement, where everyone got a trophy, whether they won or lost. Well, in the movie business, not everyone is going to get a trophy with me. You have to do something special. Coming in, being on time, being good at your job, being, very professional, moral, all those things. That is your job description. That's just you doing a great job. But if there's a moment where, at the last minute, I saw something in the background, I'm like, I need an MC in that background to bring up that thing. And my electrician swoops in and he's already got the alien tape and he slaps it on the under cabinet light and pops the thing in. And I'm like, dial it to 5600 and boom, it happens. And he runs out and we do the shot. I will personally shut the set down after we get that take and say, I want to give a round of applause for Jimmy McVeigh, for him coming in, doing that right at the last minute and made all the right idiosyncrasies of the background and everything. Let's give Jimmy a hand, and when I come in and the set is lit and it's like so well done that it's just going to be a couple tweaks, I will stand in the middle just after they've done their safety meeting. And I go, I want you to give everyone in Grip Electric, set deck, and art direction a massive round of applause. Look at what they've done for us here. So these are the kind of things that I do from a leadership, and I do give a trophy out to Grip Electric and Camera every week, but only one person wins it in each department. It's not given to the whole department because they all didn't win. And also with that is that individual can win it 2, 3, 4 times. On my last movie, I gave somebody it 4 times in a row. And everyone's like, why is, Rico getting this trophy 4 times in a row? I go, you should watch what Rico does. See what he's up to while you're back looking at your Instagram and at craft service.
That's good. That's really good. Thank you, Shane. And of course, you need to inspire people in order to get the best performance out of them. That's what I believe in personally. I would have a hard time, working, let's say 15 hours on a set with people that are constantly, screaming and shouting at each other. And of course,
no, it's hard. Trust me. I've been there and I've taken the brunt of it. Into the Blue was a brunt of just insanity.
Really?
Okay. I don't know how I got through that damn thing.
Okay. Yes. And of course, the movie business, it can be hard. It can be tough. Many people are wired and fired up. And of course, you have people breathing down your neck. You have, let's say, maybe a 5 or 6 page day. And then you have to worry about the budget and the schedule. And just to map everything out, I think that can be extremely stressful and also daunting. Let's focus on the positive aspects.
Right. You look at it like on Terminator Salvation, I think I had a 120 person crew, with grip, lighting, camera, and all the rigging teams.
Yes. And,
it's like leading that team and getting them to all be inspired and give their very best. It's a daunting task and it's very, very stressful. It is the amount of stress that's put on us is because, that a day on Terminator Salvation was like, I think 380,000 or maybe 420 a day. So if you're not making your day and pushing that and leaving it over to another day and we go long, it's a lot of money. It's close to $500,000 a day.
Yes, and that's a lot. And then, of course, eventually somebody may blow their lid, so that happens, I guess. But it's not a pleasant experience. So no, absolutely not. And Shane, I would like to briefly talk about your collaboration with Bill Paxton, who sadly passed away a couple of years ago. The Greatest Game Ever Played, which to me is one of your early career highlights. What are your recollections of Bill Paxton and the collaboration with him, if I may ask?
Oh my God. Bill Paxton was absolutely unbelievable as a human being and as a director and as an actor. He brought so much just confidence and love of the art of filmmaking. I was just completely engulfed with it. I mean, we would go and sit in his apartment up in Montreal and just work out the whole, with storyboards and all the shot listing and the style for all the different sequences. That was a movie that is within the top 3 films that I've ever done. Every department came with their A game. And it shows so much of pulling off that period piece. But the big thing for Bill was he didn't want to do like a historical accurate, like with all the camera being historical as well as, what we were shooting historical. He wanted the camera to be progressive and very contemporary, and he wanted it to move in ways, and he wanted all of a sudden, to get inside the mind of a golfer. And, I had been on the golf team when I was a kid, as well as I played basketball, soccer, baseball, tennis. I was a big sports jock in high school and my first couple of years of college. And that was, getting inside the golfer's mind. That's why I've done so many sports genre films. It's my favorite genre because I've played most of all the sports and I really understand how to get inside the head of the player. And so we really, when he was saying, okay, what visions are we going to have for Harry Vardon and Shia LaBeouf or Francis Ouimet? And I go, we're like, well, first off, he said, well, what about Harry Vardon? If he's able to, he grew up on a links course. So when he gets into the zone, he just vaporizes all the trees and everything in his way, and he can just see the direct line to the pin. And I was like, that is cool. Now, what if Shia vision is to bring the pin right up to him like it's like 6 inches away? So he really compresses all that, accordions that nature. So it's like nothing. It's like he's just hitting the ball, hitting the stride, because it's not like he has to go 400 yards. He just feels like it's, right there. And then Ted Ray was the power, right? This guy was a monolith. He could drive the thing like daily, 400 some odd yards. So that was, how can we amass this power when he hits the ball and we fly with it? So those were the 3 kind of getting inside the mind of the player. And, working with Bill was, we had a wonderful moment on set where I saw how great a leader Bill Paxton was. I think it was day 3. We had built a home right next to a golf course that is like in the middle of Montreal. It used to be kind of the where they did the Olympic Park back in the 70s or whatever. Mm-hmm. And it used to be a golf course, and then they turned it into a park. So we turned it back into a golf course. And we were doing a night shot where we were steady camming behind Shia LaBeouf and his mom. and they were walking to the home, and we had this beautiful horse-drawn carriage go by, and you could see the illumination of the lights in the home, and they're having this great conversation about an epiphany that he had when he went to this opera with his mom. And we would start to do the dialogue, and they would start to get into it, and the camera would jam. And we'd go again, and the camera would jam. And we'd go again, and the camera would jam. And Shia started to get very irritated. And he started taking it out on me and taking it out on the Steadicam operator and taking it out on the AC. And Bill just calmly said, Shia, and he took him around the backside of the barn. And he had a very heart-to-heart talk with him. And he came out and he said, Shane, I'm so sorry. Tell me where I'm going to go, what I'm going to do, where I'm going to turn. I am all yours. What we found out, it was the connectors. They had this carbon on the connectors. We have cleaned them, and I think we're going to be good. So right there, he diffused a massive bomb. I was very honest and transparent on what was going on. And then the scene reads so beautifully and so wonderfully between the two of them, and we were able to capture that performance. And this is how Bill Paxton led. He was so caring. When he had to bring the hammer down, he brought the hammer down. When something was in the middle of it and he thought he needed to take him off to the side, he would take him off to the side. If he felt the person needed to be highlighted in regards to doing a great job or something he or she should not ever do again, he would make it public. It was just a wonderful mix of a great filmmaker. Right. And it's like when he finished The Greatest Game Ever Played, I'm like, so what do you think? Are you happy with it? And he goes, Shane, films are never finished. They're abandoned. And I was like, oh my God, I love that.
That's great. That's a great statement, and that also shows great leadership. And then, of course, he meant to imply, of course, you never have enough time to finish your work, and maybe you're never quite, satisfied. So they are abandoned. Exactly. Yeah, that's great. And thank you very much for sharing those stories with me. And Shane. Yeah. And of course, I know we cannot, cover everything, but there is a couple of movies. Before we talk about some of your recent stuff, I would like to at least mention films like Swing Vote, which you worked on with Joshua Michael Stern, who directed it. Then, of course, one of my personal favorites of yours, Fathers and Daughters, directed by Gabriele Muccino, which stars Russell Crowe and Safety and We Are Marshall. So I'm always, of course, I love action movies. I love to be entertained, but I'm also a sucker for, let's say, drama, the relationship between people, and I want to be moved when I watch a movie, and I'm interested in character development and so on. So those films, especially Fathers and Daughters, basically holds a special place in my heart. So that's a wonderful movie and great work.
Oh. Right. Thank you so much, Michael. And that is that's in the top 3 films, because that film, these are the films that I feel we should be making as artists.
Yes.
Because it's an imperfect character in an imperfect world instead of a perfect character in an imperfect world. That's what we've been doing for a long time. And Gabriele Muccino really understands emotion, and he understands color blocking, and he understands camera movement so beautifully. And that film was so inspiring for me because I had never experienced anything like this. I always, when I work with directors, some like to shot list, some like to storyboard, some like to shoot from the hip, some like to make it up on the day. There's a whole slew of how directors work. Gabriele Muccino did something unique that I'd never seen any other director work with, do, and that was he embedded the shot list in the working script. Okay? Mm-hmm. So imagine you're reading it, and then after you've read that scene, there is a shot list of every shot that's going to be done for that scene. And I just saw it as, oh my God, think about everything that this checks the boxes on. Art department knows what the camera's doing. So they're going to know what they're going to have to dress and what they're going to have to build. I know what I'm going to have to light and the lenses that I'm going to need and the camera package. You know, hair, makeup, and wardrobe understands what's going on in the environment. Then I take what I've read and then I integrated this on No Place Like Home with him. I then see all this and then I write a description called The Look. And this is also embedded in the script. So I describe the light, the mood, and the tonality of every scene in the movie. So now you're reading a script that's not just there for you to break down in each department, but for you to be a filmmaker and to unite the whole team as one filmmaking source. So they understand what the colors are going to be. So if I'm in wardrobe and he says he's going for a late afternoon scene and it's going to be on the orange side, I might not dress them in orange, right? It's like you start to see the way that the movie starts and it's overcast. It's going to be sun shafts. It's going to be, dark and cavernous. All these things are described in every scene along with the shot list embedded in it. So one document that educates everyone. And this is when I had that aha moment, because the hardest job we have as an artist, as a director of photography, as a director, is communicating that vision. So when you can let the script communicate your thought process, your shot process, your tonality, the mood, the color blocking, all these things are in one document, then you've all of a sudden united a massive army of artists to then bring it to life.
Great. Thank you very much for elaborating on that. And before we talk about, let's say Mac G and one of your frequent collaborators and one of the recent films you did, Holidate, and also the upcoming Loveheart, I would like to also mention Into the Badlands. I seem to recall an interview in which you said you are particularly proud of this series. You shot 6 episodes, basically all episodes of season 1.
Yes.
Which shot or aspect of the show are you most proud of? And it looks really fantastic, if I may.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, Into the Badlands was, those type of movies or type of television series where you have this was 500 years after the bombs had basically been deployed and the earth was vaporized, let's say. Mm-hmm. And it was a rebirth. So imagine if we were cavemen and we all of a sudden understood fire, and then we all of a sudden started to, build a wheel and build a cart, and then all of a sudden form a knife. And, it's like that's how the barons within Into the Badlands started out of the ashes of, post-apocalyptic. So I thought, okay, I think I knocked it out of the park with Terminator Salvation in that very unique style of post-apocalyptic. It had been done with all these brown and tobacco tones and basically overused in that environment. And I thought, okay, what are the machines? The machines are steel, they're silver. What if the landscape becomes a silver reeds and cyan blue skies and this very desaturated world, but the skin tones still play through? Okay, we're not doing this post-apocalyptic thing. I'm not going to desaturate all this stuff. This is, imagine if like plutonium and all this, look what's happening in Chernobyl. That thing is, the greens are greener than we've ever seen. The flowers are more colorful than you've ever seen. So this, I looked at all the Chernobyl references because I wanted to see what happens when a whole area is literally leveled. And I was like, okay, well, we're going to do with Into the Badlands. We're going to use fire. They don't have, they don't have electricity except for, specific areas. We're going to use fire. We're going to use steam. There's going to be a lot of smoke. And the world is going to come back with so much force. The grass is going to be the greenest grass you've ever seen. The clothes and the fabric is going to be very colorful with all the dyes coming from the flowers and the poppy and all that stuff. And I just thought, it was a real nice reboot of what we've all seen with post-apocalyptic. And what I was very proud of is with all this color, there was so much harshness and rawness. And, the blacks were inky dark and you had to squint to see into them. And this was a world that was not so nice. And, people were getting slashed and decapitated and stabbed, and the mix of martial arts but creating martial arts, it's very difficult to light martial arts in a really beautiful sense. And Warkai Wei with the Grand Master did it absolutely beautiful. Like every scene was just an homage to the absolute most gorgeous still frame you had ever seen. But that took 200 and some odd days. Okay. Some of the stuff he worked on it for a year and a half. That one night rain sequence, they shot for 99 days. We had 8. So how do I take the television schedule and the Warkai Wei inspiration and turn it into something that looks almost exactly like it? Well, that was really a major task for me, and uniting my teams and getting them to be able to pull off. And, I turned to Chris Mosley, who's been my 8-camera operator since Terminator Salvation. And I said, Chris, I want to give you the fight unit. You're going to be my fight unit DP. And I want you to just, because I lit all the environments and then he would come in and do the fights. And I lit it in ways so they could literally turn this on, turn that off, because with fight sequences like that, you can't shoot all this direction and then shoot this direction and shoot this direction and shoot this direction. That's not how you shoot good martial arts. You shoot it in order, because a lot of times what happens with the first hit or the first blast of the sword is a counteract. And that counteract cannot be known. You don't know what's going to happen sometimes. So by doing it in order, it means you're shooting this way, then you're shooting this way, then you're shooting this way, then you're shooting this way again, then you're shooting around. You're shooting all in order. So you have to do it in a way that sets it up so you can, on dimmer boards, or, I was working in like that massive fight sequence in the warehouse where they go and they're snookered into thinking that there's heroin or opium being there. So what I did is I created a light box. So I lit it from the top, and then when we looked towards the windows, I had these blacks that pulled all the way up so we could expose the windows. When we turned around and went this way, well, if all that window light was coming in, it would look flat. Then we cut the ropes and whoosh, the whole ropes came down. And then now we have black side to camera. And, then we look that way again and the ropes come back up. So it's like you had to come up with a very unique style to be able to captivate the martial arts, not make it so it's just flat as hell, because that's how most martial arts movies look. And I wanted to be the Grand Master. I wanted to pull off Warkai Wei and his vision. And I think I did a pretty damn good job of it.
Absolutely true. I couldn't agree more. And Shane, are you at liberty to disclose some details regarding Loveheart, which will be released on Netflix?
Yeah, I can tell you just a couple things. Okay, Loveheart is the say anything for this generation. It's the John Cusack with the boombox and Ione Sky up in her bedroom, and the Peter Gabriel song singing In Your Eyes. It's that iconic moment where these two individuals you would never put together become together and fall in love. And it is so funny and so heartfelt. You just fall in love with Nina Dobrev and Jimmy O Yang. I mean, it's just a wonderful, wonderful story.
Great. And it was directed by Hernan Jimenez and also produced by Mac G.
Yes.
And you've worked together a number of times. Let me just see. We did cover Terminator. There was We Are Marshall, of course, the great football story with Matthew McConaughey. The Babysitter,
yes.
Rim of the World, and Holidate.
Well, Holidate he produced. But
he produced, yes,
directed.
yes. I mean, I meant films which he either directed or produced. So there's a big variety here. I mean, we're talking about sports drama, romantic comedy, science fiction, action, a bit of horror in The Babysitter. It wasn't a bit of horror. It was, second and third.
It was 75% horror.
75%, yes. How would you describe him as a director and producer? What does he look for also when it comes to collaborating with you? How do you usually communicate and work and map out the details?
It's the two of us on set are like on fire, right? I mean, we have almost the same personality. So we're incredibly positive. We love to inspire the team. He's a big personality. I'm a big personality, and we just fuel all off of each other. He is an amazing idea man. He comes up with these I never would have thought that in a million years kind of idea. And then, together we turn it into fruition. And I just love working with him because he has that 5-year-old boy mentality where it's just everything's new and everything's fresh, and he doesn't become jaded. That's one thing that being a really great, successful cameraman is being humble and never becoming jaded.
Yes.
It's like you got to have that core 5-year-old, God, I've never done this before, and this is going to be so amazing. And, I don't know what I'm doing, but it's going to be great. And, that's kind of the mentality that both of us have on set. Mm-hmm. And we like to shoot from the hip a lot of times. We come in with a great plan. But then I want to be able to, when he says, what about this? I'm like, oh my God, I want to be able to try that. Let's do that. So the curveballs become these wonderful serendipity moments that take the movie higher. And as a producer, he is, he's able to put the right collection of people together, as well as the actors that just fuel success. And Loveheart, when, he was putting, and Mary Viola, they were, and, Stephen Bello were putting together the whole cast and kind of, putting everyone together and all the pieces, the building blocks of it. It was just so inspiring to see, how it all fit, and it just gets you very inspired to do your absolute best. Working with Mary and Steven and Mick G, it's like every day I love coming to work. And when I was first coming up the ladder, I had a lot of romantic comedies that came my way. And I was always like, no, I'm not doing that. I'm drama or action. That's what I do. And then when Holidate came along, I'd never done a rom-com. So I'm like, what the heck? Mick G's producing. I know we're going to have a great cast. When he said he got Emma Roberts.
Yeah.
And we just had so much fun on set, both of them. The whole cast was incredible. John Whitesell, the director, was just incredible. He had so much experience and he just knew comedy. I'll never forget this line. He goes, we're on nights, right? And he goes, just so you know, Shane, we're wrapping. We're not going to do 12 hours. And I go, okay. He goes, nothing's funny after 1 a.m. And he was right. We would try to wrap by 1:30 every day we were on nights because it didn't get funny. So these are kind of the things that, I really learned from that. And again, working with McGee as a producer and that whole team at Wonderland Sound and Vision is just absolutely, it's like and that experience of going to work every day, not having the stress of, okay, what car we're going to blow up, how many, we got safety this and safety that, which is all great, but it's exhausting. And how many cameras I'm going to deploy and how many cameras can't see each other. And, on Need for Speed, I was interjecting 28 cameras, 32 cameras in one stunt. It's a lot, but going to work every day and lighting something that's very dramatic, because I'm not lighting them like rom-coms. The camera's moving all over the place. And it's, immersed with the comedy. I loved it because I came in every day and I laughed for 10 to 12 hours every single day. And I absolutely enjoy them. And I love stories. My wife and I were high school sweethearts. We met at 3 years old. We've been in love for 40 some years. We've been married for 33, wow, which doesn't happen in this industry. And I love stories. And
me too.
Yeah, it's just something that swells your heart and makes you feel so good. And, I'd much rather be doing that than blowing stuff up.
Okay. Great. Shane, is there anything else you would like to add? Anything about your career or about filmmaking in general? Anything that comes to mind before we wrap up?
Well, I think part of your job as a cinematographer, once you've gotten established and everything, is also to give back and to help, educate the future filmmakers of tomorrow. And, my wife saw this in 2009 when I was doing Act of Valor. And she was like, Shane, you are doing such groundbreaking tip of the spear, taking a still camera and turning into a movie making machine that you're then going to be able to blow up on a 60-foot screen and put in 9,000 theaters across the United States. We need to start sharing your knowledge on this. And it sparked a revolution. And through that, I just, wanted to share. And as much as I shared, I got so much more back in return. And this started as just a simple little blog that then moved to Shane's Inner Circle, which was like a little, let's say, a glorified deep dive blog. And then we launched the Hurlbut Academy in 2018, where we got on a very professional platform, and you can track, all the members all over the world, and you have your own profile where you can show your reel and your skills and everything. So everyone can kind of, help each other out and give each other jobs. And then everyone wanted me to do more and to do more and to do more. So it got bigger and bigger, and our staff started to grow, and the amount of content, we're up to, I think 700 hours of content and 80 some courses and over 550 lessons. It is a monster of a cinematographer, filmmaking, directing, resource. And the cool thing is, come at the end of this year, we are rebranding. So we're not going to be the Hurlbut Academy. We're going to be the Filmmakers Academy. And what I've done is kind of what I told you, Michael, all these mentors that helped shape me as I was coming up the ladder and taught me and mentored me. I'm bringing all those colleagues into the Filmmakers Academy, and it's going to be this incredible cinematography adjacent. So it's like master color correcting, like Dave Cole from Technicolor is coming in, and Melissa Kent, who's done like 60 some odd movies as an editor. And all the people that have shaped me as a cinematographer are now coming into the Filmmakers Academy, and we are going to kick some serious butt.
Sounds great. Sounds very promising. I couldn't be happier to have been given the chance to do this interview. And you are so passionate about this industry, and you've provided such great insight. And I love your stories. And it's just been a really, really pleasant and great conversation. So thank you. And I would also like to add a quote, which can also be found on your website. Being a filmmaker is not easy. It's not a career. It's a lifestyle. It's not something you are interested in. It's something you are obsessed with. And I think that sums it up.
Yeah, it really does. And that's how I live my life. I live my life by that standard, because I absolutely love what I do. Every day I show up, it's like, they pay me to do this? I mean, yesterday I was in my the Hurlbut Academy office, and I was lighting it for all this new focus puller and intro to color correction and producing content that we're doing. And I put my AirPods in. I did everything. I didn't have a crew there. I hung every light. I adjusted everything. I set up the camera. I set up my Flanders monitor. I was choosing all the lenses. I brought in all the props. I hung all the posters. I put all the accent lights. I just love what I do. And, it's one thing that, if any director ever works with me, what they say is my passion is infinity. I'm there for them every single moment of the day. I love what I do, and I just want to keep on doing it till I finally put the nails in the coffin.
I mean, I can tell you're so passionate. When I watch a movie which is shot in either in, let's say, action movie or the drama or a romantic comedy, the intimate shots, or let's say the lighting and the camera movement, and let's say, or shot in safety, for instance, in the college dorm, when the camera moves from left to right, or it goes up and then it goes to the left, and that's really, really creative. And congratulations on your great career.
Oh, well, thank you so much, Michael. I really appreciate that. Warms my heart. Thank you.
Shane, thank you so very much for taking the time out of your schedule to do this interview. I really appreciate that. I had such a great time, and I hope you enjoyed the conversation as well.
Oh, it was incredible. Thank you so much, Michael, for having me on your show, and I just really appreciate your depth of knowledge, and also really doing your homework and knowing what I've done, and it brings the best out of the interview. And yes, I can feel so relaxed and really share as much as possible.
And Shane, thanks again, and I'm looking forward to chatting again down the road.
Sounds good. All right.
Thank you very much. Stay safe,
Thank you.
Stay healthy, and take care.
All right. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.